Hello, I'm Scott Soshnick.
And I'm Eben Novy-Williams, and this is the Stop in the Name of Love sports business podcast, the Sporticast.
I have to be honest, Novy-Williams, I have absolutely no idea what that means.
You told me right before we started you wanted to talk about Diana Ross at the beginning
No, I
of the
didn't
show.
say. Well, no, I said I wanted to talk about how my sister, by the way, coming to you live from Sudbury, Massachusetts, hockey tournament this weekend. First of all, hi, Marc Ganis. How are you doing?
Hi, Scotty. Hi, Eben. Great
Good.
to see you guys.
Good to see you. So Eben is in New York. I'm in Boston. We got a hockey tournament this weekend up here. We'll see how the focus group of one does. But Marc, you tell me this. I everywhere I look, I try to bring things back to sports business. So my sister is sitting here about 3 feet to my right, and she's on the Foxwoods website. She wants to go see Diana Ross playing at Foxwoods. And apparently this is as popular as the pasta pass at Olive Garden. Like, you have to be in the first 3 seconds. So she lost focus for a moment, totally her fault, watching us, so Eben and I, preparing for the show, and all of a sudden the big sold out came up on the screen. And I was shocked. She was shocked. I mean, listen, I know Diana Ross is a big name. I got it. But let's be honest. It's been a while since Diana Ross has been. And I said to her and Eben, like, is there anything Tom Brady or Joe Montana could do at age 70, whatever, where you would buy tickets for it? So is there anything to be learned from Diana Ross selling out in a minute?
There's a lot to be learned. First, keep the brand going. She kept the brand going. She's gotten popular with a lot of videos of the old Michael Jackson and Jackson 5 routines from back when they started.
One,
That's
2, 3,
it.
baby, you and me.
They gave the Spinners a run for their money with their dance moves, if you remember. Eben doesn't remember this. This is just
I do not remember.
We can. Eben, you can actually shut off your mic and leave for 5 minutes if you want, because Novy-Williams has no idea what we're talking about.
But my real question is, I didn't know Diana Ross was still alive. No, nothing to, but and it's like a friend of mine saw ABBA at a theater, but it was holograms. And I'm wondering, are we going to get to that for some of the old music stars? And he said it was fantastic. He said it was unbelievably realistic, and they were playing the music they want to hear. So maybe people can live on for a long, long time, even after they're gone.
I can't wait for the MSG Sphere. They're going to pay a lot of money to U2 to appear at their residency, and then we're going to have the ABBA holograms appearing at the Sphere. It'd be much cheaper for Jim Dolan since he spent so much money on the Sphere going over once. But so tell me then, I know Michael Jordan has kept the brand going, obviously. Yep. Who else? I mean, do you have to be that megastar? What do you? I mean, you follow all sports. Which athletes are doing it well, and who's going to have a life? And I know we'll get back to the NFL, in a minute. But who's going to have life? Who's doing it right?
Well, you do have to be a megastar to be able to really cash in on it as you get to your 70s and 80s. And Tom Brady is probably the only one from the NFL that we can identify today that would be in that category. From the NBA, I think we'll see a few. I think we'll see Steph Curry continue, LeBron James continue, Giannis could very well continue. What you're seeing is these stars are becoming multidimensional business people. And that's how they're keeping themselves relevant. They're keeping their social media feeds fresh. They're doing strange things. They're, on the back of boats. I saw Tom Brady on a Mr. Beast YouTube video.
I watched that one, yeah.
On a yacht.
On a yacht. And he actually, what did he do? He threw it, and he actually made it on the first try. He hit something,
he
right?
did
right?
Football to a guy on a jet ski.
Yes.
It was amazing. So
how could that not be Gronk, by the way? How could it not be Gronk on the jet ski?
I don't think he was there. Otherwise, it would have been perfect.
Right, it should have been Gronk.
But
go ahead.
That's the kind of thing you have to. So, like Brady buying into Birmingham City in English soccer, by way of example, or buying into or being given a piece of the Las Vegas Aces in the WNBA. Stay relevant, stay constant, be on Mr. Beast so you get the younger audience. Do something wild like hitting somebody 80 yards down in the water on a jet ski and hitting them on the first shot. Those are the kinds of things that you have to do to stay relevant. So a Brady will do that. I think LeBron will do that with Maverick Carter helping him along the way.
Steph's going to do it on the Professional Golfers Tour, for God's sake. He's going to be a pro golfer as he gets older.
And he's going to keep going with golf. And that's an entirely different market segment that's interested in golf. Look at what's happening with that Monday league that Rory and Tiger put together. Now you've got Arthur Blank that joined it. You're going to see a couple of other that I'm aware of, major sports team owners that are going to be joining that same golf
Well,
league.
hold on, Marc Ganis. Now, what you're doing there is teasing something that now maybe the competition might chase between you and me. Now, this between you, me, Eben, and the many people that listen to this podcast. And that, by the way, that's not facetious. Many people listen to this podcast. I'm going to give. My sister raises her hand there. She doesn't really pay for a subscription, but that's another story. Let me wink and nod. Mr. Novy-Williams, do you know something about what Mr. Ganis was just referring to? Do you know anything?
I've heard some names. I have heard some rumors.
And
we to maybe have some news at some point soon on
keep
this
an eye
topic.
on Sportico and Novy-Williams. I think there may be something of interest there.
I think that's right. But going back to what you're saying, Mark, to me, there's two main things here. One, I think athletes are following in the footsteps of people like Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and just being savvier with their money. They're being paid a lot more now, but also being savvier with that money now. And two, I think the new media opportunities, not the broadcast booth, but things like Mr. Beast, the ability for athletes when they're playing or when they're retired to remain super relevant in digital media opportunities is so much bigger. It exists now and it didn't exist a decade ago, let alone 3 decades ago. And those are the two things that I see for the reason why I think you're right. We're going to see a lot of athletes who are big names now be extremely relevant later in life in a way that I think it was harder for people who played in the 80s or the 90s or even the early 2000s.
You know what I think was corny? Go ahead. I
was going to say, some of them stayed relevant by being broadcasters. I mean, Scotty and I grew up in the New York area, so you've got, Walt Frazier, Keith Hernandez, people who are
Swishin' and dishin'.
There you go.
The ebullient and loquacious player from the New York Knickerbockers.
Yes, and very well dressed too. He had.
You want to tell me something that Clyde told me? You're right, because that's all part of it now. Entertainment, sports, fashion, music. It's all wrapped up in it. It's what we do at Penske. I mean, we cover 360. But one thing Clyde said to me, and I believe this is true. I mean, maybe a few others, but not to Clyde's level. He said to me once, a lot of players want you to think they have style. Because remember him with the picture with the Puma Clydes and the Rolls Royce. Classic. Clyde had style. He goes, no. He goes, I had style. Do you know what players of today have? They have stylists.
Yep.
Huge difference between having style and having stylists. I got a lot of athletes today being told what to pick out before, for the walk to the arena or to the course or whatever it may be.
Yep. And that's what we're seeing. So we're going to see more of that. It still will only be, the elite of the elite that will be able to have that kind of multi-decade longevity thereafter. But we can pick out the handful today that are out there. They also have to be able to communicate well. They can't just be, the old phrase of dumb jocks. They have to be able to communicate. They don't have to be socially, out front. As a matter of fact, in some ways, I think that's starting to reverse the benefits. But you have to look at like a Ryan Reynolds as an example, somebody who has taken his celebrity and moved it to mobile, telephonic mobile, and to liquor and to Wrexham, and will continue with that as he just bought into another team. So, in Formula One. So that's the kind of thing that we need that you'll see happening.
Mark, what do you think about the specifically around the NFL's ability or inability to create these people? I agree with you when you said that the NBA maybe has more of these stars right now than the NFL does. Tom Brady certainly jumps out as an outlier, but is it the helmets?
I have one who jumps out also, by the way, who runs counter to our narrative, who wasn't the megastar, whose personality and whose Q rating soared because of what he's done. Pat McAfee is your example. Nobody knows the punter from the Colts. Come on, look at what he's done post-football.
I agree. Yeah, I'm just curious, Mark, what do you think about what it is about football that seems to create stars in a different way than the way the NBA creates stars?
The NFL is the quintessential team sport. No matter how great you are at quarterback, if you don't have an offensive line to protect you, if you don't have wide receivers to catch the ball, you're not going to do very well. So because it's the quintessential team sport, there's less emphasis on the individual. And as a result, they get less attention. Now, it took Tom Brady 6 Super Bowl championships with some of the most unbelievable comebacks. Marrying Giselle didn't hurt. That would not hurt any man, I will add. So you start. So he was a crossover star, and I think we'll see some more of them. I'm going to mention Aaron Rodgers here. Now that he's in New York, now that he's getting more attention and publicity than he ever got before. Don't forget, this is a guy that was in competition to be the host of Jeopardy after Alex Trebek. I think we're going to see people like that have great after football careers. And we'll see more of that. Look at Tony Romo. He went from the field to the broadcast booth, making a fortune. Wouldn't surprise me if we see him be a professional golfer as time goes on. And he's so telegenic. But you've got to be telegenic. You've got to communicate well, and you've got to take advantage of the crossover appeals that social media and the coverage of celebrities provides today.
Let me ask you this, Mark. We're talking with Marc Ganis, sports consultant. Mark, Tony Romo, he could have stepped into the booth, and I mean, it was like Dandy Don Meredith back in the. There's always been that color commentator. That's fine. It was, to me, it was almost back to school when Merlin Olsen came on. It was Enberg and Olsen doing the late game in Denver, and I'm like, oh my God, it's 7:00 on Sunday time. That 60 Minutes promo would come, and I'd be like, oh, it's time to go back to school. But all the innovation that's happened, Romo would have been just like everybody else. A good analyst, whatever. But the fact that we have the data and the innovative abilities for Romo Vision to take hold, it brought him to another level. Like nobody had done that. We hadn't seen that. I think there's just simply more opportunities for players like Romo to stand out.
There are, but I will go back a little bit before that and mention John Madden, who stood out, and that was before Tony Romo. Do you have time for a quick John Madden story?
Go, please, of course. Do we have time? That's the beauty of podcasts. It's either you're talking with a good John Madden story or I'm listening to Novy-Williams tell me lightweight Princeton football stories. Where do you think I want to spend my time?
Yeah, this is a good John Madden story. So John, when he would come to Chicago, where I live, would stay at the Ritz-Carlton. And that's, he broadcast games. So if he ever stayed, the game was in Green Bay, Chicago, Detroit, he'd always stay here. And we'd get together when he came in many evenings, and he loved to walk the streets in the evening in his sneakers, and people would come up to him all the time. Great, very very personable. He told me the story that before he got the Miller Lite beer commercial, he was told to prepare for attention and celebrity that you never had before, and he told me that he told the advertising agency, "What are you talking about? I've been a Super Bowl head coach in the NFL." And he said, but the reality was that as soon as he did that commercial, the attention to him and all over the world became extraordinary, and it blew him away as to how much he became a celebrity and not a football coach after that. There's a story here. There's a moral to the story, and that is the more these athletes do these kinds of commercials that highlight them, they get known by a much larger audience, and that's how they keep their personas going. That's how they build it while they're in the middle of their careers.
That was before the video game, I assume?
That was well before the video game.
Interesting.
And it was, and if you remember, now, again, we have a generational gap here with Eben versus Scotty and me. But that when John Madden burst through the screen, and let me tell you another thing, it was extraordinary. And so he became that character. And that's the kind of thing that as athletes have longevity, they're known for something, not just playing football or coaching football in this case, or even just playing basketball. And that's how they're going to have this longevity that Diana Ross apparently has also.
Wait, hold on, let me ask. Sis, did you get the tickets? Got the tickets. Thumbs up. She's very upset, by the way.
Right.
If anybody at Ticketmaster is listening, she's upset about the fees. Just that's a no. She does not like that. The total is so much higher than what the tickets cost.
I've heard Michael Rapino is an avid listener.
I was not going to call out Michael Rapino, but since you just did, hey Michael, the fees. My sister is not happy about the fees. By the way, Mark, you talk about John Madden. I am not sure if my focus group of one, age 14 now, no idea if he knows that John Madden was a coach. Everybody knows the Madden video game. I don't know if he knew he was a coach. I have no idea. And I'll give you a story once too, just to show you like the generational divide, the need to figure out a way to cross over and stay relevant. I love the point you brought up. I was actually standing on the floor of Madison Square Garden with Lenny Wilkens. Now, Lenny, of course, played in the NBA, Hall of Fame player, coached in the NBA, the Sonics, the Hawks, Hall of Fame coach. And he told me the story. He goes, you wouldn't believe it, this morning, one of my players, so this is a professional basketball player for the New York Knicks, said to his coach, hey coach, did you ever play? And he looked at him, and he just, you can imagine the heart sinks. He's like, did I play? He goes, I'm the only person in the Hall of Fame as both a player and a coach. And an NBA player didn't know that? I mean, boy, Lenny needed a commercial. He needed a Miller Lite commercial like nobody's business. I mean, that wasn't the same personality. But like you said, you have to figure out a way to keep the brand going. Because 20 years from now, I'm not sure. Will my son know who Tom Brady was? I don't know. And I have no idea.
There was an LSU football player last year who had a really big game when he had the flu. And afterwards, the journalists were kind of comparing it to MJ's flu game. And in the middle of the question, the guy interrupted the journalist and was like, I'm sorry, but who's MJ?
No.
He just had no idea.
You're saying that to a man in Chicago. Oh.
Yeah, I know. That was last year, maybe 2 years ago. His name was Harold Perkins. But to me, it underscores this exact point. He was like, who is MJ? He just had no idea
Let me ask you this, Mark.
About.
We go all over the place with you. And by the way, we really intended to talk NFL, but we're 17 minutes in and whatever.
Yeah,
we'll get there. I promise we'll get there. We'll get there in a little bit. But let me ask you this. The one thing, my response to the Nebraska outdoor volleyball game, 90,000 people, most attended women's sporting event in history, wonderful. But they walked out of the tunnel to the theme music that, to me, represents Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Doom, 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 doom. Eben liked it. I did not.
Well, I assume that it was also their theme music for regular home games. We're not sure if it was a one-time thing or not.
I don't know, but it isn't this event is not a regular anything. I don't know. You got it. To me, it's so identifiable with that one man and that one team. I think you need to do something else. Your thoughts on this? Just settle this argument.
I'm with you, Scott. That has got to be just Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, and with the announcer, I've forgotten his name,
and now,
Carolina.
6'6" from North Carolina. Yes. Yeah.
That song is called "Sirius" by the Alan Parsons Project. For anyone who is curious.
Wait, Eben, you said that as if you'd never heard of the Alan Parsons Project.
I've heard of the Alan Parsons Project.
Oh, okay.
I've never. I didn't know the name of the song though.
Okay. Right. And no. Yeah. You don't have to. You just have to. It's almost like people with Rupert Holmes and the Pina Colada song. Officially called Escape. I think it then has parentheses, the Pina Colada song.
Yeah, and it was done by Jimmy Buffett or before Rupert Murdoch, but he got
Hey, remake it in a good way. Right? Eben, please help me get to the NFL.
Yeah,
I know this is your pivot point. I can tell you're itching for a pivot.
You can tell. Let's get into some football stuff. Mark, the NFL season kicks off on Thursday. The media deals, big new tranche of media deals, kick in this year. $130 billion of deals across the TV networks, across Amazon, across YouTube. Now that those are done, what's in the NFL's? What are the biggest business priorities right now? Is it stadiums?
I got to jump in, Mark. Hold your thought, Mark. I'm sorry, but I have to scold Novy-Williams. He's asking you about stadium deals. Okay, but Eben, you have once again used the word tranche. Did you not just get scolded? Did you not just get scolded for utilizing the word tranche?
I did. I did a Dan Le Batard episode last week, and at the end, I got called out for my vocabulary, specifically for using the word tranche, which apparently I use a lot, Scott. Now that
you do use it. I would often let it go, but since you just got scolded yesterday, to come back today throw it in again, I just felt the need to call your attention to the usage of tranche once again. Anyway, Mark, you remember the question?
It doesn't matter. I'm going to answer whichever question I want to answer. Right?
Wow, you really are involved in pro sports, aren't you?
Six greatest words every year. Are you ready for some football? I'm telling you. Do you remember that Hank Williams before Monday Night Football?
Of course, yeah.
These days, as we're getting to Labor Day, people are just shouting at each other. Fantasy football drafts are scheduled. College football just started. This is the real start of the year. It's not January 1st. It's right here around Labor Day. You have the end of the summer, the beginning of the fall, people starting to think about the holidays. You've got school beginning for kids and for college. You've got football starting, and most important thing, my birthday. So this is September is the real start.
What's your birthday?
Every year, September
what's your
28th.
birthday? I'm
28th.
September 6th.
Well, it's closer to your birthday than mine.
Yes, and a very
happy
expensive
early
month.
birthday.
Now I have to add to you now, but a very expensive month. Anniversary September 5, my birthday September 6, wife birthday September 8th.
Ooh, expensive.
Yeah, it's
week.
a tough month.
Yeah.
It's a tough week.
And back to school and hockey for Stonewall.
Yep.
Oh my God, Eben, we got to make this guy. He's got to get a side gig.
Yeah. Not enough going on. Yeah.
I'm collecting cans and bringing them back. Are you kidding me? Somebody has to buy new pads. You ain't kidding.
Back to the NFL.
Yeah, but the leader's the NFL. Of all those things, the leader is the NFL. Let's make no mistake. And you have the new media deals kicking in. It's always dominating TV. And still, though, the NFL is searching for the future. How do we connect with new fans? And that was all part of the media deals as well.
Absolutely. So, the NFL is very focused right now on being the leader in direct to consumer, because you talk to anyone in the sports industry with the cord cutting, the mother's milk of regional sports networks being reduced, ESPN having they're going to end up at less than half of where they were at their heyday in terms of cable subscribers. There has to be a new significant source of both revenue and being able to get to people where they are and where they want to be and consume their sports. Direct to consumer is the future. We all have to recognize that, and nobody has figured out the secret sauce yet for it. The NFL is very heavily involved in figuring out what that secret sauce is. They're the place. The NFL is the sport that people will go look for. That they proved that when they did the Fox deal. Remember when Fox first came into the NFL, Fox was on channel 38. People don't even know that there was a UHF and a VHF and a dial. Sorry, Eben, again with that. But that's when it started. And so that getting the NFL and the fans wanting to go watch it, they started looking for Fox on channel 44 and 56 and 32. And then that they were then able to translate that into getting on the regular dial. And that's because it's people go to the NFL. When the NFL went to ESPN for Monday Night Football, huge increase in all the revenues for ESPN across the board. They similar thing when they did Sunday Ticket with DirecTV. Now they need to do the same thing in this next iteration, direct to consumer and streaming. And that's where a large part of the focus is, not just because they have the TV contracts in place. They could sit on their laurels if they wanted to. But anybody that knows Roger Goodell knows that that's yesterday's news. It's beyond yesterday's news. He's focused on today and what's going to happen 7 years from now.
You have to be, because remember, the NFL created the Fox network. I mean, it legitimized it. Like the Simpsons wouldn't be the Simpsons without the NFL. So now you have to look ahead. What's the next beneficiary? I'm not sure we know what it is, but you want to chuckle, by the way? God bless my sister. She's sitting again to the right here. She hands me a note, listening in on discussion. Maybe we should talk about the impact betting has on football. Lots couldn't wait because baseball betting stinks.
She definitely is your sister. Pulls no punches.
What's wrong with baseball betting? I think it'd be kind of fun. You can bet balls and strikes, and will they steal the base? It should be fun. Sports betting baseball. Yeah. Anyway, I don't. That's the sister's 2 cents.
I do actually have a question about going back to the media and the DTC for a second. The NFL, when it did its deals, did 11-year deals, right? They extend from this year more than a decade. What do you think about the term length there? It surprised me just in how long it was. Yeah.
Eben, there's a provision in those deals. The NFL can get out of each of them after 7 years.
Gotcha.
So and it's not that the networks can get out of it; it's the NFL can. So when I talked about 7 years in the future, I didn't just pick that number out of a hat. It's because they need to be prepared for what happens in year 7 and 8. not just what happens in year 1 and 2 of these deals.
Is there another entity, Mark? By the way, the NFL could have said, we want outs after 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. And the networks would have said, okay.
I'm not so sure about that, but 7 was on a 10-year deal. 7 is a good number. They might have been able to say 5, but your point about the NFL having leverage is correct. Let's be clear about something. The NFL is the lifeline to linear television right now. It's absolutely vital. So they have to try and keep the NFL on because that's where people are going, and that's why people are keeping the cord and they're keeping satellite and things like that. It's because it's the only must-see live TV that's on linear television these days.
I love that the NFL is investing in other businesses that are adjacent to football. Taking equity in these things. This is where the big money comes from now. It's like you only need to be right once, have one big hit. And there's real estate. These are platform companies, right? Let's look at what Stan Kroenke is doing. Yeah. These are major platform companies.
Well, and other sports and leagues have done platform companies. Look at the Yankees. Yes Network, Legends Hospitality.
Fenway Sports Group.
That's right. Fenway Sports Group is another. So it's there, with the Yankees, New York City Football Club and things like that. So there are other teams and other leagues that have been doing this, teams primarily, not the leagues. The NFL is doing it on a league-wide basis. They have that venture fund, 32 equity included as well. But, there is something that needs to be, and I hope this gets addressed with the new executive director of the Players Association. They're leaving a lot of money on the table. The players are also. There's a way because of the way the CBA is crafted, and it's all a percentage of gross revenues. When you have expenses for businesses like that, you have to be able to deduct them, or you're not going to go into them. And so that's why, like On Location, the NFL came up with it. Great idea, but they had to sell it because 50% of the gross revenues was going to the players, yet they were spending 60% on cost of goods sold and marketing, so they were losing money on the deal. So there needs to be if the new exec director of the Players Association wanted to have a discussion, one of the things I'd say to him is figure out a way to get a part of these equity deals with the NFL, maybe co-invest with them on it and take that and be able to have a deduction in expenses so that everybody benefits, because that is the future. You guys are right. There's a lot of money in that, and it can go to the players as well as the league.
They are co-investing sometimes, right? Fanatics, Dapper, there are some companies in which or maybe those are totally separate. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But
separate investments. They're not doing it with the leagues. Right. Okay. The only ones that have been a semi co-investment is when you think about stadium developments and financing, and they have to get waivers from the players, and they have to demonstrate to the Players Association that the actual within a few years, the amount of money the players will get will actually be larger, and they do that each time. But I'm talking about actually there are, as Scott was just talking about, there's a future here of owning pieces of businesses that are adjacent or rely on. And, the NFL has been investing. The players should want to invest. They can create them together in some ways, but you have to modify the business model. It's not broadcasting revenue where the NFL has done a phenomenal job on licensing deals, but there's only so far that's going to go. The future, as unfortunately Mr. Soshnick is right again, is going to be in equity.
Yep. Everpass Media, is that one of the things that could fit into this bucket here?
It could have, and it should have. They didn't necessarily need to do it with a third party, except that the NFL had to get a license fee out of it, which they are, $200+ million a year, and that will grow, and getting a small slice of equity. This could have been a perfect example of doing it in-house and doing it together with the players, and all the parties making more money out of it over time.
What else sticks out to you as an area that is green for this kind of structure around the NFL right now?
There's so many businesses that are affiliated with the NFL. Scott's sister just brought up gambling. There are, baseball. It's not as fun to gamble on baseball. I don't know. I don't gamble. But look at what baseball has done with things like facilities, gambling outside of the stadium. The Cubs just opened their DraftKings one, which has been phenomenally successful. And now in the off season, it's going to be the place to go also. to watch football games and Saturday college, and so it has other life. So the gambling is there's more to be done in that space as well. But I'm going to give you a different area. International is an area that is tremendous focus by the NFL and has very significant upside. As you guys know, dealing with people saying the EPL and Bundesliga and La Liga, they all look up to the NFL as the premier league on the planet. There's a lot to be, that reputation, hard-earned, well-earned, but there's a lot of economic benefit to having that kind of reputation when there are so many parties who want to be in business with you. So there should be some kind of, and I hope the executive director of the NFLPA listens to Sporticast. Of course he does.
Better.
And just say, maybe that's something I should be looking into, because I think his players would have a lot more and money that they don't have to earn with every paycheck, but that they get every year, years after they've played the game.
All right, Mark, I promise you we're going to call Lloyd Howell to come on. We're going to get him as a guest. I mean, perfect start for the start of the season, new on the job. We've given him a little runway here to figure out what he wants to know. Here'd be the only danger in what you were just discussing, Mark, because I fully expect PIF, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia, to make Caleb Williams an offer to be the first player in the American Tackle Football League based in based in the Middle East. Actually, that was my awful segue into let's finish with this. In just institutional capital in general, not necessarily sovereign wealth, but private equity. The NFL is the holdout, mostly because they don't need it. But as I watch this, if I see Mitch Rales and Josh Harris stretching to buy a football team, prices ain't going down, I don't think. So is there change afoot? What do you believe will ultimately be where the NFL settles in on private equity institutional capital?
So there's obviously, this is something that is a hot topic within the NFL. They're looking at different ways of doing of having sufficient liquidity as team values, as we know from Sportico, have now crossed the average of $5 billion per team, and yet the debt ceiling per club is still $600 million. With if you're doing an acquisition, you can add another half $500 million to that. Isn't it great
that I understand what you mean and why you would say a little bit to that number? It is worth a chuckle that's where we are.
That is where we are, and it's the scarcity of the number of teams. It's how many people want to own them. So there will be some. They are looking actively at some different things. The question you ask about private equity or different ownership structures, the NFL. One very influential in the NFL said something to me recently. He said, however it is we're structured, we tend to make the better decisions. Very modest statement on his part. They are structured in a way that the decision makers have a huge amount of stake in every decision they make. That has resulted in the team owners themselves spending a great deal of time and their other relationships in business to enhance the NFL as a whole, without total reliance on the league office to do everything. That has really served the NFL very well. They don't want to move away from that. And the values keep going up even without moving away. They have a lot of runway in the areas that they have already in place. They can increase debt ceiling, they can increase acquisition debt and things like that without changing ownership structure. So at least for the time being, if the NFL dabbles in institutional money or that kind of thing, I'm not sure it'll be in equity. And someday, if it is in equity, it may be very limited, not like what the NBA and Major League Baseball have done.
I think of this as there's a bunch of levers that you can do to make it easier for people to buy teams. And one of them is lower the 30% cash that the main controlling owner needs to have. You can lower the amount of people that can be in a group from the 20, or raise it from 24 to whatever it is. You can make the debt ceiling changes that you're talking about. You can also allow institutional money. And the way I see it, at least in my reading of kind of what happened behind the scenes with the Commander sale, it seemed like some of those earlier things are maybe more on the table in terms of moving than the institutional money is, at least right now in the NFL.
Right. I think you're picking that up accurately, Evan.
Got it.
Evan,
Wow, we don't hear that every day.
Yeah, I know. But what is that? What is that hat you're wearing?
Oh, look at you coming late in the program.
This is a Bold City Brigade Jacksonville Jaguars hat right here.
But that's wait. Eben, let me tell you though something. Like I would not have known what that was.
Yeah, neither would I.
Yeah, this is the big Jaguars like fan club essentially.
Right. We've made no secret of your fandom for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I joke all the time that I think
long pained fandom.
Yeah, I say that Tony Baselli's going to play well this week. You know, Mark Brunell is going to have a good scramble game. This is the stuff that I come for him. And is Fred Taylor still your favorite Jag?
Yeah, Fred Taylor was down with us in Austin last year for South by Southwest. It was very good, or earlier this year. It was great to hang out with him.
Hey, Scott?
I am a child of the late 90s.
Oh, wait, are you going to point out? Are you going to point out my dirty shirt? Is that what you're going to do? Are you going there? Oh, okay.
I wouldn't go there. Otherwise, you'd have to point out mine. But doesn't Evan look like Jeremy Roenick with the backward hat, the long hair?
If you want,
looks just like Jeremy Roenick.
Yeah. Well,
I wish my bank account looked like Jeremy.
Yeah, but not you. You have a more sterling reputation. Let's count that. Actually, you know what he gets all the time, and if I say it now, you might get it. Is another hockey player though. Go to Tampa. He gets the Steven Stamkos quite a bit, which I really see.
I've been asked to sign autographs as Steven Stamkos, which I've declined to do, but I think if it happens again, I might just start doing it. Start rattling off some Stamkos autographs.
I know this is a podcast, but for those who catch the video snippets, I will say, I mean, now that I told on myself, if I stand up straight here, there's there it is. That's the dirty sweatshirt. I wasn't used to it. It's cold up here in Boston. It's warmer back in New York. Overnight down in the 50s. Anyway, all right, Mark, living up to your nickname of the 33rd owner. Yelling at the NFL pay to rework this deal, and you got to count those expenses. I love it. I love the way it came. But hey, Mark, thanks so much for joining us. I mean, that was so much fun, and happy Labor Day, my friend.
Thank you. Great to join you guys. Always love talking to you too.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. You want to do the exit too, Eben, and we'll keep Mark in there to do the exit?
I will do the exit. Yeah, special thanks to Marc Ganis, sports consultant and NFL advisor. Happy Labor Day to everybody out there. For Scott Soshnick, who you can find on Twitter at Soshnick. I am Eben Novy-Williams.
He struggles with this, Mark. He struggles with the clothes. I'll talk over him. Keep going. He struggles with it. He struggles.
Keith Bernardi. Shout out to both of them.
He's already thinking ahead to where the real.
What
does she like to remind you?
Follow the show at Sporticast.
Yeah.
Which is the hub of the Sportico Media Network.